Hi, this is Sean Casey. Thank you for joining my masterclass. I'm the owner of Sean Casey Academy and Twin Cuts Barbershop. Today I'm with my guest, Jadine. What we're going to do is a natural mohawk. So, as I can see from the side, she has a lot of length where I will pick out and trim the ends. I actually like the length of hair, but I'm going to be able to use a technique to create a little bit more springs to create that very soul-cultured natural haircut. As well as on the side, I'm going to taper down the side of her hair into a point into the neck to give it a very trendy mohawk style. Okay, so how I'm going to start is I'm going to comb through the hair to make sure I see the natural way the hair is falling. So I'm starting from the sides of the head at the parietal and combing into the contour shape of her hair. This allows me to see if there's any type of mole, skin problems, anything that I need to be aware of. So I make sure I comb through all the hair, see that I'm ready to cut. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pick to pick through the hair, which will allow me to trim. I want to trim some of the loose ends, so eventually I can create the shape and create some spiral texture in her hair. As you can see from the texture of the hair, the more that I pick, the longer and bigger the hair becomes. So I want to pick the hair that I'm not necessarily cutting it, but some of those loose hairs to create the shape that I'm searching for. Now that I trimmed her afro to my desired shape that I want, it's time to fade the sides. The tool that I'm going to use is my adjustable clipper. This tool has a lever on the side that switches from one length to the next. By me opening the lever, I'm transitioning from one length to the next. So if I was to cut a number 1 below the parietal ridge and a 2 above the parietal ridge, by me opening up the lever with a number 1 on it, I'm able to work out that weight line and stay in between the two sections, making this a 1.5. I'm going to take my number 2 guard and put it on my clipper. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut down with the grain of the hair. So I'm going to turn my clipper upside down. I have my lever in its closed position and I'm going to turn my clipper upside down. Using my number 2, I'm going to keep it flat from where the right above the parietal ridge and start cutting with the grain. This is allowing me to create a square shape without cutting deep into the afro and losing the shape that I'm cutting for. Why I'm doing this is preventing me from creating a heavy weight line and cutting too deep into our natural hair. So I'm floating down from above the parietal ridge into the hairline. I'm going to repeat the step on the other side. Cut with the grain of the hair, and I'm going to follow the round shape into the nape. So I'm going to round the shape and cut inwards. Using my clipper flat and following the shape of the neck, floating towards the center middle neckline, I'm starting to form the mohawk. I'm cutting with the grain around the ear in the round shape of the head. And I'm cutting at an angle where it's meeting to the middle of her neckline, where I'm starting to establish my mohawk shape. Now that I've created the shape of the mohawk, I want to fade in the sides. So I'm going to use my number 1, put it on my adjustable clipper. So I'm going to use my number 1, snap it onto my adjustable clipper, and I'm going to start cutting upwards with a C stroke, starting at the temple area. I'm going to work from the temple point a little bit below the ear, a little bit above the ear. I'm going to start from the temple point and cut a little bit above the ear into the nape, so in an arc section. So this is my guideline. Now I'm going to turn my clipper upside down and cut with the grain. By doing this is allowing to cut at a half size bigger. So if I was to cut with a 1 against, cutting with becomes a 1.5. You can see how it's blending nicely into the number 1. I'm going to follow that shape on the arch of the haircut line that I created with the number 1 cutting against the grain. So now I'm cutting down. I'm dropping it a little bit lower than when I cut with my number 2. Now I'm going to turn my clipper upright, open up the lever to its 1.5 position, and blend in the line. Notice I'm following the side shape and following the round shape of the head into the mohawk shape. I'm going to repeat the same technique on the right hand side. Using my number 1 closed, I'm going to cut to the temple. The temple is my guideline. And I'm going to cut a little bit above the ear and arc it down to the neckline. Now I'm going to turn my clipper upside down and cut with the grain. I'm starting from where I used that number 2 cutting down. I'm staying right a little bit below that section, and with the down motion flat, I'm coming down, cutting with the grain of the hair. Now I'm going to turn my clipper upright and open the lever to its 1.5 position. Right where the weight line is, I'm going to use a C-stroke. This is like a feather technique that's helping make a smoother blend from my 1 going up and cutting down at a 1.5 position. Now what I'm going to do in the back to bring out this point, I'm going to do a little tighter taper fade. A taper fade is just using sectional fading. So you can taper the temple and you can taper the bottom of the nape. What I'm going to do is 2 nape tapers. So I'm going to angle it on the left side and I'm going to angle it on the right side. I'm going to take off my attachment, open my clipper in its open position. And starting from the bottom of the nape, I'm going to do a C-stroke. I'm floating out. I'm softly scooping out. I want to keep it very feminine. I don't want to cut too masculine and cut it too short. So I'm doing a feathering technique where I'm using the ends of the teeth and grazing it out. What this is doing is gently tapering the neckline, creating it to have a softer taper effect than as I would cut on a different style for a more aggressive cut. A C-stroke flat would make it more aggressive. Using the teeth is going to create a softer effect. So now I'm going to turn my clipper over and use it like a trimmer. And I'm going to establish the V at the bottom of the nape. Now this neck hair, with it closed, I'm going to do the same thing that I was doing with the teeth, softly using the teeth at its closed position to taper out those neck hairs. Now I'm just going to refine the haircut using my number 1 on my adjustable clipper. I'm going to use a brush to brush out the curl. And I'm just going to look for dark spots in the hair to smooth out. As this texture, hair can curl and combine it together, which is going to create a lot of little dark spots. So me brushing the hair and using my number 1 and targeting those areas, I'll be able to create a smoother transition and blend. Create a smoother transition and blend. I'm going to put my number 2 back onto my adjustable clipper. And I'm going to go a little higher into the fade. So right now I'm right around the parietal ridge. And I'm just refining the transition from the afro into the area that I faded. Now that I cut the shape that I'm looking for, I'm going to outline the hairline. So from the temple into the sideburn, and from the back of the sideburn around the ears into the faded nape. So I'm going to start from the lowest point from the temple. I'm going to use my trimmer, and I'm going to make a horizontal cut. Where the sideburn is, make a vertical cut, tap and swipe, and I'm going to use the T-point of my trimmer to trace the shape of a half circle. Now, I'm going to start from the center of the ear and I'm going to follow forward to create a pointed sideburn, an angled pointed sideburn. Holding down the ear and angling my trimmer, I'm going to use the T section of my trimmer to remove the line, remove the hair that's overlapping onto the hair to create a sharp hairline around the ear. Now I'm going to follow that line and follow it all the way down the neck. Turning my trimmer over, I'm going to use the back of my trimmer to remove the hair as a shaving technique. This is not where I want to use the teeth. This will create irritation using a trimmer because the blade set is so close to the top section of my blade. So again, I'm going to look at the bottom of the temple line with my trimmer where I see it naturally ending the hair to the skin. I'm going to create a horizontal line. The front of the sideburn, I'm going to create a vertical line. Now I'm going to use the T-point of my trimmer to connect the vertical to the horizontal section of this temple line. Starting from the top of the ear, I'm going to use the T-point of my blade. I'm going to trim around the hair that's overlapping the skin growing out from the hair. And I'm going to follow this shape into a point, a slanted point. When I use my trimmer, I tap and swipe. The lighter the tap, the sharper the line. Don't press heavy on the skin. If you press heavy on the skin, you can damage the skin and create irritation and hair bumps. Again, I'm going to trace around the ear, cleaning around the ear line. And now, follow down the nape. Here I'm going to outline the back of the neckline. Follow my way all the way down. And I'm going to use the back of my blade flat against the skin, not using the teeth. Using the teeth will irritate the skin because the blade is set so close to the moving blade. So using the back of the blade, I'm going to remove the hair. Now that I cut the hair and I faded aside, it's time to style it. So what I'm going to use is a moisturizing cream. Rub it in my hands and just move it through her hair. I'm going to use water to mistify the hair, or I'm going to use water to mist hair with the moisturizing cream in the water. It's going to activate a softer curl. I'm going to use a sponge brush and a circular motion around her hair. We're going to follow the shape of the mohawk, so I'm working from the sides towards the back. And from the crown towards the apex. Alright, so what I'm doing is I'm using my sponge to break up the texture of the hair, to kind of clump it together to add a lot more movement. Almost like natural dreads that are not locking up. So she has many different variety of styles that she can use. So if she decides to grow out her hair, she's not committed to having her hair lock up. which is very trendy now that natural hair is coming back in style. So she's kept it very nice and short on the sides, and the sponge is grouping the hair together, allowing a lot of texture, a lot of movement, a lot of separation. And she's working with her natural hair. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you follow me on social media, as well as go to www.theshaoncasey.com.